I hope everybody has some popcorn and boba because this story is an absolute doozy of a ride. It's an author who commissioned an artist, was so excited to receive the work, and then slowly started putting pieces together and realizing that maybe what they paid for isn't actually legitimate. It's a wild ride, so let's strap in and again, don't send hate to any parties involved. This all kicks off on Threads and it's posted by Threads user Char Josephine Latte or Charlotte Josephine. They are an author who is launching their debut novel and they write, "Hi artist, the worst has happened. My artist sent over a photo that I think is the finished artwork. And it looks like it isn't done in the same style as the reference image of their previous works. It's horrible. I was a bit worried about this as their portfolio seems in a completely different art style and they sent me some artworks saying it was done under NDA. I can't find them anywhere online, but I worry that it's not this artist's work. Am I entitled to a refund?" And this was the first post that kind of kicked it all off. A lot of people in the comments were very kind in terms of offering some assistance. People speculated that it was possibly AI, where the author felt like it definitely is not AI. And a lot of people felt like the NDA stuff was a bit suspicious because this is an author, so we are talking about the book art space. A lot of people felt like, hey, NDAs aren't really something that happens unless you're working with like the top five traditional publishing companies. So that's odd. But secondly, if they sent you photos of the work covered under the NDA, that means they broke the NDA to send you the work. So that means they're unprofessional, and that's also weird. People were also asking how OP found the artist, and they said that they found them on Reddit, r/hungry artists. And that is a subreddit where a lot of artists will promo their work in terms of looking for commissions. But overall, a lot of people are empathizing with the author and also asking for a little bit more information. So a little while the same day, the author starts feeling a bit disheartened, writing that they messed up on their first art commission, that they ignored a lot of red flags due to the fact the work that was sent was not actually on the artist's portfolio, and the artist had falsely claimed it was done under NDA. And the author said it was because they were so enchanted by the work that they didn't have a lot of money to throw away and that they were looking for an artist above the €300 mark. They add, "If I can't be refunded for this, I can no longer publish my work." I just want to add again, like, please, let's have a little bit of empathy here, right? I saw a lot of people blaming the author, being like, "You should have known better. This is what you get for commissioning a cheap work." The actual price of their commission looked to be around £500, okay? So this is not somebody who was like going to the cheapest artist possible, being like, oh, $30 for like a fully illustrated thing. A lot of people are like, hey, if it sounds too good to be true, you're gonna get scammed. This is an author who saved up, scrimped and saved a lot of money, £500, to get a fully illustrated cover. That is a price range that is a lot more standard for what you're purchasing. So it wasn't like they went to the cheapest artist possible. And also, this is their first art commission. So a lot of people, again, are like, well, how did you ignore these red flags? You should have realized this. These are like red flags that, again, you would maybe recognize if you've done a lot of art commissions, you've commissioned a lot of artists, you know what to look out for. This is this person's first art commission. They, on paper, did everything right. They found the artist within a reasonable price range for what they're looking for. They looked at their portfolio, they like what they saw, they commissioned this artist, it's their first commission, and it just sucks that this happened for the first one. So anyways, I don't want people blaming the author because I saw some people saying stuff like that. Have some empathy, guys. You saved so long. This is your debut novel. You're trying to get the cover done, and then you get scammed out of £500, allegedly. We'll continue to look at the story. It just sucks. And this is the extra context the author added. What the artist who scammed me sees. New client willing to spend £500 on a piece, commissioning multiple artists at once, one cover and one interior illustration. What they don't see, the 2 years of shivering to scrape pennies through the winter months without heating, never going out anywhere, commissioning anything, and thrifting everything I have. The nights spent refreshing and crying to myself about how much I love the art they supposedly made, only to realize it was never their style at all. So a little while later, the author had another update, basically adding that, they're taking back their judgment a little bit, and they feel like maybe optimistically, this could be something that's legit. Their gut still tells them that something might be wrong, and they received a work in progress, but they're optimistic that maybe the work in progress, could be modified a lot so the final product would actually end up looking like what they were promised, what they were advertised. And there are a lot of really cool artists in the comment section showcasing their before and afters. Here we have this artist writing probably the worst work in progress I sent, yet the author trusted the process. But I learned from this a lot, and now my sketches are much closer to the final. This is their before, and then this is the final piece. And holy absolute jaw on the floor, stunning, gorgeous, beautiful. This is so pretty. Plus, like, oh my god, the tension, the way that he's grabbing at her skirt. Oh my god, I love. Okay, I need to know what this is for. Like, what book is this for? Because I need this right now. This art has sold me. Oh my god, wait, upon further digging, this book is Lore of the Tides, which is actually book 2 of the Lore of the Wilds duology. Ooh, I did not finish book 2. I didn't know it got spicy like this. Anyways, I'm derailed. Another artist showed their before and after, adding some extra context, and the author says thank you. Unfortunately, the problem is their portfolio is all in a similar style to this work in progress, and they don't have any socials. The reference image they sent me was in an entirely different style though, but I can't find it anywhere online, so I trust that they're the original author of the work, and that was the style I paid higher for. In order to match that with this work in progress, it would have to differ quite a lot from the line work and shading that they've done. So the author had another update adding, hey, new update, the artist is gonna send work in progress of the reference works so that I can see how they are before the final render to prove they are the OG artist. So all of that sounds really optimistic. Okay, maybe they're gonna give some examples so that, we know, okay, this is just their process. It's a really big trusted process, but that you're gonna end up with a final product that you like. But then the author added this. Update on being scammed by my artist. Red flags for AI has been identified. Not only is their portfolio in a range of different styles, but I've been informed the 2 reference images have hallmarks of AI. The reference images I've been staring at and dreaming of for my book. I am gutted. The artist stayed kind of professional and offered to share progress images to prove the art is theirs, but it's been a day and I haven't seen it. I feel like they're fabricating something, though I don't understand why they wouldn't back down knowing they cannot deliver the final image. And another commenter is like, hey, just because they have a lot of varied styles in their portfolio, it doesn't necessarily mean they use AI. And to this, I agree, right? Because a lot of artists do work in multiple styles. They will have one main style and maybe they'll have a chibi style and a very sketchy-esque style. I would say the one differing factor is most of the time, you can still tell that it was made by the same person. Artists have their own art style and they have a tendency to use specific types of line work, or they lean towards specific colors, maybe they prefer pastels. So you would see that in their finished fully illustrated works and in their chibis. Sometimes artists have a very specific way they like to render, so they like to use a lot of cross-hatching even in their final digital renders, and you'll see that throughout their art pieces. And the author adds some extra context, writing multiple signatures in the portfolio and by multiple art styles. I mean 50 in completely different styles. They added more since I commissioned, and I was just so blinded by the reference I loved. And yeah, that one's the big one. If it looks like it's done by 50 different people, it might be done by 50 different people and be stolen. But then we get a speed paint, and the speed paint is looking mad weird. So let's delve into this. So a day later, the author posts an update. Art threads. The artist I suspected of using AI just sent me these progress videos. Please weigh in. They're still not the same style I was commissioning for, but do you see it? Watch the coloring stage. All your feedback might be the difference to help me being able to achieve my dream of publishing and getting a refund. Because the author probably has to collect evidence to submit to PayPal to make sure they can get the refund. This is the speed paint they sent. And oh my god, my jaw is on the floor because this is the most atrocious attempt at fake a speed paint I've probably ever seen. So first off, this quote-unquote artist works in Photoshop. And I myself also do use Photoshop. Yeah, and then look at the final render. What is happening here? It literally was the artist was like, oh my god, this freaking author keeps asking for a speed paint. Ugh. The author probably doesn't know anything about art, so I'm just gonna go give the crappiest speed paint note to man and try to pass that off. Because literally anybody can look at that and in 1 second clock the fact that something looks wrong. Because in my personal opinion, that is most definitely a fake speed paint. Look, I use Photoshop, okay? In Photoshop, there is the toolbar on the left-hand side that shows you what tool is selected. If you're using a brush, it would have right there, that brush is highlighted. Why is that cropped off in the speed paint? The speed paint crops in everything except the toolbar, which on its own is really freaking weird because why would that be the case? Why won't you just record the entire screen? It is more effort to crop the toolbar off. And in my opinion, the only reason you would do that is if you're doing something illegitimate, like you're using the eraser method to go and try to scam a speed paint by erasing, and then you don't want people to know you have the eraser selected. I covered another video where there was a fake speed paint where it looked almost legitimate, except in the corner you could see they have the eraser selected instead of having the brush tool selected, so that they were actually doing some eraser shenanigans. And if you don't know what the eraser scamming method is, it literally is you have your art piece, right? In quotes, this little shitty ass smiley face, and then you have a layer on top that's white. And what you do is you take the eraser and then you kind of erase away at the white layer, and it's oh my god, look guys, I'm drawing a smiley face. Yeah, except I didn't, because I'm just erasing a white layer on top. I didn't draw this, right? I'm only erasing. So when we take a look at the speed paint and slow it down in our editing program, we notice that there is a lot of stuff wrong with this speed paint. Number one, with every brushstroke this quote unquote artist makes, somehow 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines appear. If we look at the arm, that's one brushstroke made all of these lines appear. This one, 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 this one. Does not make sense to me at all, because with one brushstroke you make one line, okay, with the exception of some fancy brushes that you can make 3 lines at a time, but then that means that brush would only draw 3 lines. It wouldn't draw 3 and then suddenly become 4 and then suddenly become 3 again. That's just not how it works. You don't magically make extra lines appear. This is most definitely a fraud. So one, that already is wrong. Secondly, that I forgot to point out is the fact that you cannot see the layers. Where are the layers? Either they are intentionally hidden or intentionally cropped off. But regardless, if you're trying to post a speed paint to clear your name, to convince the author that commissioned you that you are legitimate, you want to show everything. You want to show the tools you're using. You want to show your layers. So why is this cropped off? Every single time that I've seen a AI scammer submit a speed paint, they're always filmed really weirdly with the shittiest iPhone ever and cropped in the weirdest way. It is so much more work to record yourself drawing and then crop all the stuff out of it than just submit the entire recording. That's already weird. And point number 3 is the brush weight. You see the circle right here, right? That is the size of the brush. So every stroke made with this brush should be this thick. It should have the diameter of this circle. But why is every single line that appears is like a fraction of the size of the circle? That just, again, does not make sense unless you're using like a pressure pen. But again, this does not look like it's one of those. So all of these, it's already giving me massive red flags. This is absolutely a scam. But also, how are they scamming? Because what I think they're doing is actually different from what we've seen previously. Because if you guys have watched a lot of my videos, there is another artist that I've talked about that submitted a fake Photoshop speed paint in which they use the eraser tool. That's what I just talked about, where they make a white layer on top and they erase the white layer to make it look like they drew the artwork. But here you can see it is actually the brush tool that's selected. So what I think is happening is that they actually have a layer with the line art that they didn't do themselves, that they probably took from AI or something. And then they actually made the line art layer a really, really light gray. So it looks like it's a sketch. Because that's what we can see here. That is what is visible. So they probably did something like this, right? And then my guess is they actually have a clipping layer over it. And then they have their brush set to black. So it looks like they drew it, but they actually did it. And they're just painting over the clipping layer. But that's the reason why their brush is so much bigger than what line is actually appearing. Because they're just doing something like this. You know, oh my God, look at me drawing the cat. Ha 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 ha. Even though I am not actually, I'm literally just freaking playing coloring book with this. That's what I think this scammer is doing. But yeah, let's continue looking at the speed paint. You see what I mean, right? Because like there's just so many lines appearing and the brush that they're using is just way thicker than the actual lines that are appearing, which just makes no sense. But the quote unquote artist does this for a while, which I also want to add, just looking at this, there's a lot of AI looking anomalies happening. All of this like crunching happening in this corner. A big one is, again, you want to ask yourself, like, would a human draw this? Would a human draw the sleeves to look like some crunched up diamonds? Probably not. This fake artist is not even attempting to hide the fact that they're scamming. What's also odd is there's no corrections whatsoever. This artist in quotes never has to redo a brushstroke. Look at this like ornamental detailing. They somehow get perfectly straight lines on the first try without using the line tool in Photoshop. Come on, you're not a god. You cannot make this happen. Like everybody, when it comes to drawing these types of ornamental details that has like very, very geometric straight lines, you're gonna have to redo it over and over and over again because on the first try, you're not gonna get a perfectly straight line. But somehow this artist, the goat themselves, every brushstroke is also immediately perfect. It's just so odd. And then we get to the rendering. Look what the hell is happening here. So now we get to the blank page. They have the eraser. Okay, selected in Photoshop, set to like 90. And they start erasing to magically make the finished product appear. Did they just give up? They actually spent some effort scamming in the first half with that fake sketch line art clipping mask shenanigans. And then they got to the render and they're like, oh, I don't know, man. Let's do the eraser tech. The funniest thing to me is they're using a hard brush. They're not even using like a soft brush to try to make it look more believable. Look, one brush doesn't paint 10,000 different colors. How are you painting 20 different shades of green with one brush? And by the way, we cannot see their color wheel, so we don't know what colors they're using. They start coloring. And then I guess they get lazy halfway through because they just make the brush like ginormous. They use a different brush that's set to 250, which is massive, and then they just magically paint all the colors of the background. Somehow they managed to paint in words too, with the exact same brush words appear. By the way, take a look at the name of this Photoshop file. We can't see the full name, but it says something ver new Photoshop. Do you think it says paint over new Photoshop where they're painting over the image? They then undo all their fake erasing and then toggle on the faint already done background. So they're lowering the opacity of their fake white eraser layer to then continue erasing. Unironically, this wins the award for the shittiest fake speed paint that I've ever seen. At a loss for words. And again, I feel so freaking bad for this author. This is comedic, honestly, at how awful this is. So up until the point of the speed paint being posted, people were 50-50, kind of giving the unnamed artist benefit of doubt. After the speed paint came out, everybody was stepping on this artist's neck, being like, dude, this is wrong. The top comment says, not the full render at the end, who are they fooling? Another person says, at least they're providing proof they're scamming you. Another person said, I'm sorry you got scammed and lied to as well. You should tag this person, the world needs to know. And the author says, unfortunately, they don't have any social accounts, just the Reddit one I commissioned with. And they're known as a scammer on r/hungry artists. But the community doesn't name or shame on there, so there was a no ban list I could find them on. People are saying, LOL, the end was so insane, I'm sorry for cackling. After all of this, you know what's the wildest part? The fact that the artist is actually doubling down. So the author posted this conversation they had on Reddit with this artist in quotes. So the author basically says like, hey bro, you're scamming me with AI. And the artist says, I'm sorry you feel that way. That is such a like a manipulative thing to say. Like, I'm sorry you feel shitty for me scamming you, haha. But they continue. But I genuinely disagree with the accusation that the video are AI generated or fake. The work in progress I shared came directly from my drawing progress, and I've been transparent throughout the commission. You mentioned yourself earlier you didn't doubt my ability to draw or the legitimacy of the current commission work. So I feel the situation has become more about distrust around an unrelated NDA sample piece rather than the actual artwork I delivered for you. I've tried to cooperate, provide work in progresses, revisions, and clarification whenever possible, and my intention was to never mislead or scam you. Like, just note what this person is saying. They said, it's not my intention to mislead you, and I'm sorry you feel bad. They never said, I did not scam you with AI. It's a very roundabout way, the way they responded, but look what they said. The work in progress I shared came directly from my drawing process. Your fake drawing process. Yeah, you opened it in Photoshop, but you painted over it with an eraser. Hello? So then the author basically doubles down, being like, your work in progresses are fake. And the artist says, to avoid any misunderstanding, can you clarify whether you're referring to the current commission work or the older NDA sample piece I previously showed you? This person is literally purposely being obtuse. Come on. You know you are scamming, but you're pretending that you're not. There's actually another layer to this story because remember how this author had two pieces of artwork, right? The cover, and they also had an interior design that they were working on? There's another layer. The author a day ago makes this post writing update. After being scammed by an AI artist, I am now learning it's highly likely my interior art illustration is also a scam. I'm just trying to hear from the original artist who this person is pretending to be to confirm. And a commenter says, your situation is astounding. I'm really saddened that we have come to this place where art is just a minefield of BS. I have a ton of experience in every art medium you can think of, and I really want to help you. I don't know if I'm in a position to illustrate an entire comic, but I feel really strongly pulled to your plight. And OP says, you are so kind, and I'm desperately hoping if the artist is a scam, the real artist can come forward so I have proof to request a refund. And their art is phenomenal, so I would have my fingers crossed to recommission the true artist. And an update, the author writes, the original artist has not come forward to confirm or deny whether this is her, but PayPal has already taken down the original invoice for a suspected scam. And the artist has since changed the name they originally sent the invoice under. The artist name to now a name called Zobia Hack. I am so gutted and heartbroken. I don't know if the real artist would be able or willing to do my commission, but I hope to get in contact with her so she can back me up to claim this refund. And this was the communication on Reddit. A user says, you know, I love your idea, blah, 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 blah. I specialize in anime and semi-realistic illustrations. Here is my portfolio. And they link that artist's portfolio. And this is the artist in question, Tanya Anor, and their artwork is absolutely gorgeous, stunning. And OP was so excited. You know, they grabbed the image that they love, being like, I love this is what I'm looking for, and now it might not be them. And an update, another user was able to contact the original artist. They basically said, hey, an author was hired by an artist who's claiming to be you. I want to confirm it's not you, and to let you know that somebody appears to be using your name as a scam. And the artist says, it's not me, and thank you for letting me know. I doubt I can somehow report this person. what is the name of the scammer? The original artist confirmed that that in fact is not them. So the author had provided an update basically cautioning everybody against r/hungry artists, stating that if you're going to go commission people from there, to please do your due diligence and double check, cross check, and that they really wanted to commission some small artists. Personally, I want to add the extra context. It's not like they were cherry picking the cheapest people possible. They were purchasing pricey commissions that you would expect for what they're looking for. So it didn't seem suspicious, but that thankfully they found artists to help them do the cover work so that they could still get their book published in October, which is what they're aiming for. And they're actually in contact as well with the interior artist, the original one, not the scammer, to maybe see if something can happen and that they can truly get the vision to life and get the illustrations for their book, for their publishing. So they add the video they shared was not their work in progress, so the style was going to be different, and that the commission was very professional up till they asked for proof, essentially. The big issue was they received the colored layer a few weeks later and the style was completely different from what they asked for. And that they verified this art piece with other artists and they all verified it looked legit and that it was somebody's rough process. So they add that they didn't blindly fall for this, but they bypassed some red flags. And again, I just want to add, guys, empathy goes a long way in this day and age. This is a poor author that got scammed not once, but twice. It was their first time doing a commission. You know, your first time, you're bound to make some mistakes and maybe overlook some things. There's always going to be things you learn with experience. This was their first time. And again, it wasn't like they were cherry picking the cheapest people possible. It just sucked. Some people are just mean and they're like, it's your fault. I'm just telling you, if you think you're not going to get scammed, you are actually the prime victim to get scammed. That's just how life works. Everybody's going to get scammed one way or another. Sucks that it's like that. And they added another update highlighting the fact that the work in progress video was not stolen from anybody, because some people were also saying that, which is odd. And they added some more clarifications for misconceptions. Again, people saying you've stolen the video, I'm gonna be honest, like I've never seen that video before. And that's a really odd thing to say. The tinfoil hat conspiracy theory the author has is that the scammer actually sent the same video to multiple people, being like, oh, I'm legit, haha, look at this. So there's another claim that, oh, you made this up for clout, where the author says, yo, I'm not. Trust me, bro. They write, I literally recorded the video next to a fridge. You can hear it buzzing, which is pretty funny. Quote, you're stupid to have fallen for it, end quote. And they said, yeah, I bypassed obvious red flags, but I reverse image searched the artist and their works and I found no negative reviews. And they sent me a proper rough sketch and there was no reason to suspect them until the colored version looks nothing like what I asked for. Quote, no scam artist would be dumb enough to send this, end quote. Literally my sentiment. I was baffled. I still am. Which again, I'm saying empathy goes a long way. They conclude saying, I sent this video to multiple IRL friends and families who are not artists and they all saw nothing wrong with the video and thought it was a legit speed paint. I know what a speed paint looks like and I know how hard art is to make. But somehow some people cannot clock that this is fake at a glance, especially people who are older and not familiar with the digital generation. And that's also a big one, right? Like if you're not an artist, etc., you don't know what you don't know. Because Gen AI is trained off of actual human artwork, a lot of Gen AI looks legit. If it's not like the super obvious anime character with 6 fingers and like a melting eyeball, you're gonna look at it and be like, oh yeah, that looks great, you know? I'm so down. You don't know what you don't know. So this is their first commission, etc. Like this author is a victim and the person at fault are the 2 freaking scammers going around faking speed paints. Well, the first one did, trying to scam people out of money. That's the true people at fault that you should be mad at. So I feel like sometimes the internet is quite cynical. So at the end of the day, I truly hope that this author is able to get the beautiful artwork that they deserve for their novel that they're publishing. I hope it's very successful. It sounds really interesting. So yeah, definitely go check them out and send them some love, man, because this absolutely sucks. Ugh, being a victim of a scam in general just feels really bad. I've definitely been there. My partner's been there. He bought a Pokemon card and it was not what was advertised. Guy was scamming. Everybody falls for scams, man. It just sucks. I hate that there's so many scammers and it really sucks that like with the proliferation of Gen AI, there's more and more scammers now because there's another tool for them to use to scam people. So with that, if you like this video, I appreciate it if you like and subscribe. Don't forget to check me out on Etsy. I have digital art there for streamers and creators. I also have a coffee with free resources like a free sponsorship guide. And I stream on Twitch 3 days a week, Mondays and Saturdays at 6 p.m. and Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. PST. So I hope to catch y'all there or in another video. Peace.